everybody. Hello, it's my unpleasant duty to interrupt your lunch conversations. Hope you had a nice lunch. And we're going to take the next few minutes here to do our day 2, our round 2 of our Courageous Leadership Awards. And again, as we did yesterday, Kairos Alive is going to help us celebrate those. And we're going to start out with an award that I kind of messed up yesterday. Remember, we celebrated Monticello, and where were they? And it was really my fault. I got the order wrong. So I'm really pleased that Jeff O'Neill is here with us today from Monticello, and I'd like to present and just explain again a little bit to the group about why it is that Blandin Foundation chose the city of Monticello as one of our awardee recipients for this year. So the award that we're presenting to Monticello is for their decision in 2007 to build a fiber-to-the-home network for every resident and business in the city of Monticello. Monticello is home to about 13,000 people. It's on the west bank of the Mississippi River in Wright County, just about 40 miles northwest of the Twin Cities. More than a decade ago, the local business community expressed concerns about the economic impact of poor broadband services and high prices. And in response to these complaints, in 2005, the City Council appointed a task force to look into options and opportunities for the community. And through these conversations, Monticello leaders came to understand the fundamental importance of laying the technological foundation for reaping the rewards of high-speed broadband in their community. So in 2007, the city held a referendum, according to U.S. or Minnesota law rather, on one of the options under consideration, whether the citizens wanted to own and operate a telephone company. And despite being outspent by the incumbent providers who strongly opposed the measure, those in favor of the municipally owned network won with 74% of the vote. And the city proceeded to finance and build the network that their citizens had requested. The incumbent provider, TDS Telecom, sued the city, and for a long time tied the project up in court. And the lawsuit was ultimately dismissed in the city's favor, but it was very disruptive, and it stressed the project financially. But the city forged on. And 10 years later, it's clear today that FiberNet has delivered a huge return on investment to Monticello businesses and residents. Thanks to this municipally owned fiber-to-the-home network, the city of Monticello has transitioned from a poorly connected community to one of the top connected communities in the nation. Reflecting on the city's role over time in operating FiberNet, Jeff wrote the foundation, "We've never wavered in our belief that access to broadband is essential to everything from economic vitality to quality of life. And we're proud the technology is available to Monticello at affordable rates." And Jeff says that he's proud to continue to participate in efforts for broadband access across the state. And he notes, thanks to the courage of conviction of Monticello leaders and citizens, FiberNet remains an asset in the community more than a decade after its initial inception. And it's that courage that we're here to celebrate together today. So this time Maria's going to help us. Welcome Jeff on up to the podium. Here we go.
Some of you just joined for this time, and all you do is make some sound.
Wow, that was unexpected. That was really fun. And Bernie, thank you so much for describing the project so well. It's always nice when someone can boast for you rather than boasting yourself. So much appreciated on that. But I think one of the key points I want to leave you with is that, stay the course. Take care of your own. Take care of your communities. Don't give up in your efforts. Every single project that you have in your mind is going to be different than the Monticello one. It's going to be unique, but it's through the resilience, through adaptability, through creativity, and through determination, you can find your way through, and with partnerships as well. So, just a couple other thoughts is that, you know, we really did have a grassroots push. This was not the city council deciding it wanted to extend fiber on a whim. It was our citizens that wanted, our business community wanted it. And it came clear through our different commissions. We did not want to, there was a fear that there was just not going to be influence with our local provider, and that the community would not be able to get the service it needed. So after contacting the incumbents, we learned that there wasn't really interest in it. Now this is quite a while ago, 14 years ago, but it really set up a clash of two American ideals. One, of course, is self-determination. Take care of your own. You're responsible for your community. Your community needs your leadership to solve problems. And that opposed to capitalism and the American ideal of return on investments that the incumbents have guiding them. So it was just a natural clash. So as Bernie said, 14 years later, we now have 2 fiber optic systems in our town, both great services, TDS and Monticello, FiberNet, as well as Charters actually providing good service as well. Our revenue exceeds our operations expenses, which is always a good thing. It's taken a while, but it is now exceeding expenses. And really most importantly, and thanks to our service provider, Arvig, we're getting great customer reviews. People are happy with the service. Social media is our friend right now. Of course, that can change any second, but right now we're getting good reviews. And so with that, I want to recognize some people in our community that really were important. As Bernie said, the city council stayed the course. They believed in it, they kept with it, they were adaptable, and they were dedicated to seeing it through, as well as our fiber optic committee that worked with them. City staff, we're just a regular municipality. We're getting into telecommunications. You can understand that'd be pretty daunting. But our staff was very supportive, resilient, and sacrificial. And I'd like to mention a particular staff person, Rachel Leonard, who really helped manage the system during times of transition. She was fantastic. Want to also now mention some of the consultants, some of your partners that are out there that you can lean on to get help from, that really served us well. The first one is Blandin. We received a grant that allowed us to develop a Minnesota Public Broadband organization that tries to gather resources and information to help all of its members. If you're not a member of that group, you might want to look into it. The Blandin Foundation dollars got that off the ground. Also want to mention Hiawatha Broadband, who got our system started, helped manage construction, and managed it for a while, and did a great job. I want to also mention some of you may know in this room, Dan Olson and Brian Estrom, who helped us transition and work through a lot of technical issues. Joanne Johnson as well, she helped. Joe Buttweiler, CTC, came in and helped us out again as we were struggling to really make the system work well, and helped us greatly. And then, of course, need to mention Mark Burkholz and his crew at Arvig, who are now operating the system in a management agreement with the city, and things are going smooth. So with that, I thank you for the opportunity to receive this award. It's humbling. It has been a tough pull, but I think it's been worth it. And just remember, stay the course. Don't abdicate your authority to anyone else, and you can get it done. So thank you.
Thank you, Jeff, and congratulations. So the second award that we're going to make today is to Courageous Leadership Award to Cook County and Arrowhead Electric Cooperative. And Cook County and Arrowhead Electric Cooperative are being recognized for their vision and their collaboration to bring a fiber optics network to the very remote Cook County. It's at the end of the road up there against the Canadian border, and Cook County is really known for its rustic charm. It's home to about 5,000 people and host to another 5,000 seasonal visitors that come up to its many resorts and cabins and lodges. And Cook and Lake County together there, they both suffered for years because all of the telecommunications in both counties depended on a single fiber line. And occasional accidents left the counties without access to 911 or electronic financial transactions, and left public safety officers unable to check licenses or license plate numbers. And despite years of requests for redundancy, the incumbent telephone company refused to invest in a diverse path. As late as 2008, dial-up was still the only choice for many lodges and outfitters. Just imagine what that must have been like for them. Proprietors could not take reservations online, and so customers booked elsewhere. And they took their tourist revenue with them out of the county. Visitors came to fish, but outfitters couldn't purchase fishing licenses for them online. A $15,000 grant from Blandin Foundation and a matching contribution from the county, along with additional support from Arrowhead Electric, funded a feasibility study to examine the problem and potential solutions. And based on the results of that study, the Cook County Board of Commissioners took up the idea of developing a fiber network for the county's residents, businesses, and government. And in December of 2009, the board created a Fiber Optic Network Commission. Cook County ultimately formed a partnership with Arrowhead Electric Cooperative, and together they applied, Arrowhead applied for and was awarded over $16 million in federal stimulus grants and low-interest loans to build their fiber-to-the-home broadband network throughout Cook County. And in addition, Cook County awarded Arrowhead Cooperative a $4 million grant from a 1% sales tax fund. So again, it was so important that the local government and the local residents participated in helping make that network possible. The service, named True North, was completed in 2015 with over 800 miles of fiber stretching from the edge of Lake County to the tip of the Gunflint Trail and the Canadian border. And today, young entrepreneurs no longer have to leave the area to establish businesses that are dependent on technology. Home-based businesses can thrive in Cook County, and everybody can reach out to people around the world. With this network in place, Cook County is now poised to really thrive into the future. So I'm so pleased to have representatives of Cook County and Arrowhead Electric with us today. And this is Maria's cue to come up and help us welcome them to the podium while we present them with this award. The County Commissioner and General Manager. Can you help us please come up? Celebrate good times, come on! Celebrate good times, come on! Here we go. Celebrate good times, come on! Ginny is the Cook County Commissioner. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you. This is a real honor, and I thank you for recognizing us in the years that we've had to work on broadband. I was one of those outfitters back in 1986 who only could do dial-up because we did not have any other resource. So what we had to do was get our brochures together and go to shows. Well, that changed in the years beyond that. So to have a website, to know that the whole world can find you, is quite awesome. So on behalf of the commissioners, I'm board chair, the commissioners who are present commissioners and the past commissioners, and also to Dana McKenzie, who started in Cook County. And of course, you know, without Cook County, there'd be no point to Minnesota.
Hi, I'm Roger Opp. I'm just the chair of Arrowhead Electric. My general manager is standing behind me, biting his fingernails, worrying that I'll say something to get the co-op in trouble, but you know, I'll try not to. I would say that for the county, the stars were in alignment because of our very remote location. We were eligible for the $16 million federal grant, which allowed us to overbuild our the Arrowhead's footprint. Also, because of our remote location, we really don't have any meaningful competition. The window was open for us, and I attribute our success to really 3 factors. First of all, the courage of the board of directors, for which I have no credit. This all happened before I came on the board, but they had the courage to authorize the expenditures, commit our general funds, and allow staff to do their job. The second, and most important, I think, was the implementation by our staff. Behind me, John Tweese, our general manager, and Sarah McManus, our manager of broadband services. And they were the ones who ensured that we spent our grant dollars and general funds wisely, and they did the rollout, and they did the marketing, and none of it would have happened without them. And I think the third reason for our success is cooperation with our partners. Cook County gave us a grant of $4 million, which allowed us to build out the city of Grand Marais, which is not in the Arrowhead Co-op service area. So we're able to cover the entire county. And also our partnership with CTC and Joe, who used to work for Arrowhead earlier in his career, been very invaluable in advice and help and covering functions that we don't have the size or scale to do ourselves. And finally, I'm going to take this opportunity to thank Blandin Foundation, and do a little ad for one of the nonprofits I'm on the board of. I'm on the board of Cook County Higher Ed, which is our distance learning center in Cook County. We have no institutions of higher learning in Cook County, and we're a long way, so that's an important institution for us. And we benefited from Blandin and Arrowhead in 2 ways. First of all, Blandin gave us the grant for most of our facilities, and second, having broadband connections is just, I can't say how valuable it is for Cook County Higher Ed in carrying out our mission. So again, thank you.
Hi, I'm John Tweese, and I'm the CEO and General Manager of Arrowhead Cooperative. You know, partnerships is what we're being recognized for, and without partnerships, none of this would have happened. And they've highlighted a great majority of that already. We know where we're at. Nothing can happen without partnerships, and you know, we don't have the ability to have the staff size that was required to go totally on our own with telecom. So working with CTC was crucial for us, and they are beyond a shadow of a doubt the reason we're successful today. You know, we were last in the state as far as accessibility to broadband. That is no longer the case. We're last for a lot of things, but it's not that. And you know, now our minimum offering is 100 symmetrical to the home, and gigabyte service is available to everyone that has our service. So it's been quite an adventure due to the dedication of the staff and those that were there, and have since moved to other areas, but were crucial in the development. And I just want to recognize them as a whole. So thank you all very much. We appreciate the work very much, and it's going to be fantastic, and we're looking forward to the future. Thank you.
so the next Courageous Leadership Award we have for today is to Southwest Minnesota Broadband Services. And they're being awarded for collaborating across jurisdiction to bring world-class connectivity to the communities of their very rural region. So 10 years ago, 58% of the territory participating in Southwest Minnesota Broadband lacked access to broadband. Community leaders confronting the unmet telecommunication needs of their region saw the 209 ARRA stimulus funding as an opportunity to do something about the situation. Building out on WindhamNet, whom we acknowledged and awarded yesterday, the visionaries behind Southwest Minnesota Broadband Services came together to apply for, and they were awarded $12.8 million in federal funds to bring their fiber-to-the-home network to this very rural area. 5 of the towns contributed an aggregate amount of just under $1 million. They stepped up and reached into their own pockets. And Jackson County made an upfront payment of $500,000 in return for $1 million worth of services over the next 20 years. So it's some creative financing. Southwest Minnesota Broadband was a Blandin broadband community partner in 2013 and 14. They're the only internet service provider that we've had as a community, and we really enjoyed working with them, and are very committed to their communities that they serve. Today, Southwest Minnesota Broadband Services owns and operates this fiber-to-the-home network, serving the communities of Jackson, Bingham Lake, Heron Lake, Lakefield, Brewster, Wilder, Acabana, and Round Lake. Acabana. Mark's telling me how to say that correctly. A lot of communities. The network passes more than 3,500 residences, including 250 homes outside the towns, mostly farms, and 292 businesses and over 50 anchor institutions in this very rural part of our state. In addition to providing the region with internet access far faster and far more reliable and more affordable than the big carriers would, the network has helped local governments be more efficient. Having already implemented its own GIS system, for example, Cottonwood County is now able to share the application with these towns and eliminate duplicating systems. Being a high bandwidth application, local governments cannot use that GIS application without this high capacity connection. Travis Thies, who's here today from SMBS to accept the award, told Blandin Foundation, aside from bringing gigabit internet to our residents, our biggest victory has been keeping and growing our local businesses. Before we built our network, there were businesses considering relocation because of the lack of broadband. The fiber network really secured a future for them in our communities. It was the most immediate relief. Another win we're seeing are the number of individuals who relocated and are working from home. Now that we have the broadband connection, there's nothing holding someone back who wants to move to our area. Travis maintains that without local leadership, the network would never have been built. He said that the project's early leaders were able to see that broadband would be essential for future economic growth, and that they needed to put their skin in the game to get world-class broadband. Travis's advice for other communities working to broadband access is never give up. There's always a way. Some broadband models, says Travis, like municipals, get a bad rap. We've ignored the critics and overcome all the obstacles in our way. We keep doing what we do and have been successful in the communities we serve. Find what works for your community and keep pushing. There's going to be a way to get it done. So at this time, Maria's going to help us welcome Travis Thies. He's here on behalf of
Celebrate good times, come on! Celebration. One time. Celebrate good times, come on! Celebration.
Good afternoon. I'll try to keep this short, but I'd like to extend a big thank you to the Blandin organization for putting on this conference and recognizing Southwest Minnesota Broadband Services. With this Courageous Leadership Award. As Bernadette said, I've served as General Manager for Southwest Broadband since 2015, and prior to that, I served in the technical role starting with the company in 2011. It's definitely an honor to accept this award today on behalf of our current board of directors, along with past directors, staff, and most importantly, the many countless individuals that work tirelessly at the multi-municipal level, county, state, that played such a vital role in ensuring the inception of Southwest Minnesota Broadband Services in 2010. The continued strong vision and leadership over the course of the last 9 years has also been the driving factor to our continued success. That's allowed us to continually reinvest in our communities, all while allowing quality of life and economic growth to flourish throughout our rural Southwest Minnesota communities. Thank you.
So now it's my real personal pleasure to recognize a Courageous Leadership Award of our friend and colleague of many of us in the room, Nancy Hoffman. So Nancy Hoffman is currently the Executive Director of Chisago County HREA, and this award is in recognition of her tireless efforts as a broadband advocate for all Minnesotans. I first had the chance to get to go know Nancy personally back in 2008 when she lived in Benton County. She worked with Benton County at the time. Our broadband team has tallied up, and I think I told you earlier this morning that we've partnered now with 71 communities across Minnesota since we began this work. But across all of those communities, Nancy's leadership really stands out. A favorite story from our many community visits, I think, illustrates this well. So our team, we're in Foley, Minnesota. We're meeting at some assisted living facility, and the committee's all there, and we're reviewing what their plans are and what they hope to do and what they've done. And one of the members of Nancy's steering committee speaks up and says, "We've got to stop meeting like this, because every time we meet, we come up with more projects that we want to do." So I think that committee is still meeting. Nancy's was so inspiring, and I've been inspired by that sense of possibility ever since. Nancy's now again providing countywide leadership. I mentioned she's now with Chisago County, and she has led their Blandin Broadband Community Initiative as well. She's chaired the Chisago Lakes Broadband Initiative and has assisted in preparing 2 funded Office of Broadband Grant Awards and 3 prospective projects. But to top it off, in 2016, Nancy stepped up to serve as the founding chair of the Minnesota Rural Broadband Coalition. Today that coalition has dozens and dozens of members. It's very strong, and it's representing all of us and tens of thousands of rural Minnesotans. And thanks, I think, in no small part to that coalition's efforts, and Nancy's in particular. I've seen her, many of you who watch thanks to Ann's blog, maybe watched Nancy testify many times at the state capitol on behalf of the grant program. So as we know, part of what we're celebrating today is the award that the legislature made, the $40 million, 20 this and next year for the first time, 2 in a row biennium, for funding building networks in the underserved communities across our state. Again, I think that Minnesota Rural Broadband Coalition has a lot to do with that success. And I'm very grateful to Nancy for being the face of that coalition and testifying so tirelessly at the legislature. It's a long way to St. Paul from Chisago County. Nancy's message, and the message of the whole coalition, is that broadband is critical to our rural Minnesota, and we need to have equal access and opportunity for all. So thank you, Nancy, for being such an amazing colleague these many years. You really continue to inspire me in this work, and I'm really grateful for all you've given to all of us in the room. So I just wanted to share some of Nancy's words to the foundation when we asked her to reflect a little bit on the role of local leadership in the progress that she's been part of in her work. And here's what Nancy said. The real leaders are the local resident advocates, desiring fast, reliable internet that encourage the township supervisors to move forward. It also takes the township supervisors to respond to the local residents, to take action, to move forward with funding broadband. Please join me in welcoming Nancy and celebrating her as she comes up on the podium.
Why, this is such an honor to be recognized for leadership by Blandin Foundation. Sorry, choking up. It's easy to be a leader, to take that role when you have the tools and resources that Blandin Foundation provides. It really is what makes it happen. So thank you.
So I'm going to wrap up our award ceremony by, and I've decided to go ahead and mention one other award that we plan to make today, and it's to Gary Evans. And I wanted to go ahead and make that award to share the story of Gary with everybody in the room. Unfortunately, Gary's not able to be here today. He had a medical situation, and he's not able to be here, but we are going to be presenting him this award at the next Blandin Broadband Strategy Board. We'll invite him in, and our group will be able to present it. But I know many of you in the room, I'm looking around, know Gary and are a fan of his. And I thought in the spirit of reflecting on the success and what has made Minnesota special, I would just quickly tell the story of Gary Evans. So Gary's award, the Courageous Leadership Award, is for his pioneering work in bringing the internet to ordinary people in rural Minnesota, including especially his leadership at Luminet and then Hiawatha Broadband Communications. We've heard about Hiawatha and what a great partner they've been for many of us over the years. So Gary describes Hiawatha Broadband as, quote, a community-centric organization that seeks to create community betterment through connectivity. Community-centric organization is what he says about it. Before Gary's turn as the brains and heart behind really what was one of the nation's first alternative entrants into telecommunications, he spent 30 years in newsrooms across the Midwest. He was an award-winning author, writer, and publisher. And then he spent a dozen years as a VP at Winona State University. The seeds of what became Hiawatha Broadband were planted way back in 1992, when Gary Evans was one of a small team of visionaries who pitched to then State Senator Bob Carolyn a proposal to install a fiber optic cable connectivity to all of the institutions of higher learning in Winona. Winona, where Gary's hometown. It's a small community, about 28,000 people on the Mississippi River. It's a very picturesque bluff country, at about the place where Iowa, Wisconsin, and Minnesota all come together. And the Fastenal Company is its largest employer. Bob Carolyn was the founder of Fastenal in 1967, and then as a senator, he served on the Minnesota Senate's Early Childhood Committee. And he came to really believe in the power of early childhood education to change the life of young people. And Gary pitched this crazy idea that he had, this harebrained scheme idea that he had to Senator Carolyn. about hooking up all of Winona's educational institutions with a fiber optic loop, a fiber cable. And Bob Kirilin's Hiawatha Education Foundation ended up stepping up and handing Gary a check and said, well, you've got that vision, you go get that done then. You better go build that thing. And they did. LumaNet was born in 1995 to manage this public internet network that connected all of the institutions. And here is an announcement in the newspaper from 1995, okay, this will give us a little quick back about what we're thinking about the internet. The local paper of Winona wrote, Winona has made a long step towards the 21st century by approving plans for a 25-mile fiber optic network to serve schools, colleges, and public bodies. The network will link the community to the so-called information superhighway, which provides access to a worldwide database and permits transition of words, photos, videos, and computer data. The network will link schools and colleges to higher education institutions throughout the state and elsewhere in the world. It will enable the hospital to be in contact with physicians and patients in distant places. The system, presumably, will have a favorable impact on economic development as well as education. So LumaNet became Hiawatha Broadband in 1997, and the next year, Gary Evans left Winona State University, where he was then working to head it up. And Gary's vision for HBC always was to create a company where people came to work because they wanted to, not because they had to. It was kind of a source of ribbing between him and Dan Picarina, who now heads up HBC. Dan said, what do you want to do, create Disneyland? And you know what Gary did? He called up Disneyland and had them come and talk to his company about what it means to really be driven by mission and caring and loving what you do. As Gary has often said, and it has pained some of his board members to hear it, profit was never as important to him as customer satisfaction. He always sought to make that the hallmark of his company. And looking back on all of this, it's really clear to me that Gary's vision for community betterment, as he talked about it, has brought progress, prosperity, and improved quality of life for many people in Winona and far beyond. Gary retired from HBC in 2012, but he's had a very troubled retirement. He went back to Winona State University for 2 interim tenures as vice president, and then he has served with courage and conviction on the governor's Broadband task force. He's served as an advisor to Blandin Foundation on our strategy board, and he's become a writer of mystery novels with 4 published already and a 5th, as I understand it, on the way. I attended a book launch party for the first mystery novel called Death by Drowning in 2017. It was held in a funeral parlor. There was a coffin, but Gary wasn't in it. And as further evidence of his struggle with retirement, in March of last year, Gary was named an operating partner of CRF Partners, which is a New York private equity firm. Bladndin Foundation is not the first organization to recognize Gary's leadership. In 2017, he was induced into the Winona County Fair Hall of Fame for his decades of community service. And I'll just like to read the award text that we'll be presenting to Gary when we get to see him at the strategy board meeting. So it reads, this award is presented to Gary Evans for pioneering work to put community vision and benefit at the center of rural broadband deployment efforts, and for his strategic and supportive contributions to the Blandin Broadband Strategy Board and the Governor's Broadband Task Force. So come on, Maria, let's just have a, if he's out there watching the live stream,
Babies, have a let's stand up. Let's go. Come on. Celebrate good times. Come on. Sing it to each other, baby, too, right? Celebrate good times. Come on. Celebrate good times. Come on. One last time for all of us.
so much for your enthusiasm and for helping us recognize them. I'm going to ask Mary maybe to make announcements. She's better on what's where next, but we're going to adjourn now, a short break, and then we commence concurrent sessions at 1:30, I think.
Yes, 1:30 in here. It's healthcare, the importance of the last mile. And over in Lake Margaret, it's conducting a successful broadband feasibility study.
And after the concurrent sessions, we'll regather here to hear